Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Thank you for being here with us today. Today, we have as a guest Lenny Underwood from Underwood Photography and Upscale Socks. I met Lenny at St. John's Congregational Church. He is a deacon in the church. He is fabulous. He does so much for uh, the church, he does so much for the community, and his talent is phenomenal. And so, without further ado, we're going to jump in and have Lenny introduce himself and tell us a little bit about who he is, what he does. And we just want to say, welcome, Lenny. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Stacy, so much for having me, and hello to your viewers out there. So, Lenny Underwood, born and raised and still remaining in Western Massachusetts, Springfield specifically, and I've been enjoying my journey as an entrepreneur for the last 20 years. I started my photography business in 2004. That's when I had my first wedding performed, and that morphed into other entrepreneurial endeavors such as personal training. I became a certified personal trainer in 2014, 19 rather. And then in 2014, I had a dream to start a sock line, and I launched that business, Upscale Socks, in 2016. And so I enjoy fitness. I enjoy listening to podcasts. So I look forward to not necessarily watching mine with you, Stacy, but some of your previous guests and your future guests as well, and hearing their stories. And as mentioned, I also enjoy serving in my church and spend time with family and friends.
Thank you so much, Lenny. And I hope you do watch this. Oh, my goodness.
Hear
So,
myself speak and see is not my favorite, but
oh,
hopefully
I
it's not something that people will avoid when they see and hear me.
Listen, I completely understand that because I felt that way about myself as well. So, yes. So, but God has a way, right, of like pulling us out of our comfort zone in the spaces where we dread to go, right? And He's like, listen, you can't stay there. No fear in Christ, right?
Yeah, honestly, if I would say a lot of this was birthed in 2020, so many opportunities came out of the pandemic when people were home, and I was honored. I think my first one was April of 2020, and I really didn't know how to operate the whole online landscape with interviews. I've done some panels in person prior to that, but it was like one after the other, and I think people were just interested in hearing how in particular entrepreneurs were thriving or surviving during the pandemic. And so 4 years later, I'm still very humbled and appreciative of opportunities like this.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm grateful that a voice like yours as an entrepreneur and someone who is philanthropic, your voice rises to the surface and we get to hear from you and all the great things that you're doing and you have to offer it in your service. So, we are going to talk about employed to self employed. So, Lenny, what made you start your business?
Yeah, so in 2014, I'm sorry, not 2014. That's my upscale socks business, but we'll go back even further. So when I was in high school, I was an amateur photographer for the yearbook at Central High School. And I just enjoyed, having my film camera, walking around the school. Digital wasn't quite out yet, but when I entered college, I was also a part of the yearbook as well on campus. Digital did emerge at that point. It was more accessible. It wasn't superior as it is now, but great results, and it did the job for what we needed to do. And then I think what birthed the opportunities for me to see it as a viable business was being on campus and people seeing how passionate I was, how reliable I was. I would see flyers posted. It allowed me to say, well, if opportunities are there, let me at least call and see if they're interested or send an email. And most of the times they would say, hey, you're more than welcome. I could probably count on one hand how many times, folks would say, we're all set, no thank you. But that built my confidence to, be in front of the camera, be around crowds of people. But my family was telling me to focus on my education. I think I was pursuing my master's when, in 2005, when I went and started doing more weddings, and they didn't really see the vision that God had for me. They wanted me to focus on what I was in school for, which was public administration. I was minoring in business, but they wanted me to get a real job, and so it was tough, convincing them for a while. It wasn't until maybe 2007 or 8 when they started seeing more opportunities come out of that were even more professional, and working with some anchor businesses locally where they said, well, we believe in you. And I think also when I was able to hire my mother to work some of the events, um, namely proms and daddy dar dances, and working my photo booth at certain occasions where she saw the potential.
That's wonderful, Lenny. To hire your mom, now you know that, I've heard so many stories where parents have said, "Oh, no," like you said, they can't see the vision that God has for you. And then the turnaround happens, and you're employing your mom, and then she's like, "Oh, I get it. I get it." And the support comes because now she's able to see what God had imparted or implanted in your heart. So that's wonderful. What
Right.
is your most valuable asset when it comes to business?
Well, I would definitely say family and my relationship with God. And I would say it's over the last, I just marked 22 years as a member of my church, St. John's, and it's been able to be my to keep me stable, I would say, in times of darkness and sorrow, the ups and the downs of life, and in business, personal. Having that family, church family, who becomes like biological family, as well as your biological family, those that are there are priceless in your life. And of course I can say, some of the businesses I work with that also become key components of who you are as a individual, or important to the person you're becoming. I also want to share with you, Stacy, some of the journey of Upscale Socks. So I've always liked fashion and color and design, but I, I didn't have that vision for my life per se to start a business in fashion. So one night I had a dream that I owned a sock line in 2014, and I woke up, told a friend about it. We both thought it was a great idea. We thought about going into business together, but I never worked in retail before. I'm not sure if he had, but it bugged me for a year or so. And whenever I would reach out to someone to ask for some insight or information, no one wanted to share anything. It was like a big secret as to where to find a manufacturer, how to turn, have a prototype and a design and wearable art, and just the whole process of starting. So it was pretty discouraging. But I believed in it, and I just knew that if other people are doing things they didn't have the answers to, then certainly I can do all things through Christ, right? That gives us strength.
Yes,
And
yes.
so, and I can't say those words and not live it and believe it. So I had to put my faith into action. And just like anything else that we go through, we have to live by the word and what the word tells us. So I attended other workshops and local seminars, met people that were fluent in Mandarin Chinese, still really nothing. I did pursue a program in 2015 that gave me some support that I felt I needed to hold myself accountable on a weekly basis with homework assignments and to really build and put some legs on the business. Um, and so that was Spark Holyoke. Now it's called E for All, Entrepreneurship for All. And through that, I, on my own, found some manufacturers, probably reached out to about 50 of them, and just to get information on their requirements because I was bootstrapping the business. I did not want to take out any personal loans. I was recently a new homeowner. I didn't want to, incur any additional debt and make it manageable. I just knew that God will provide, and He has. And so birthed the business in 2016, took my time with designs and partnerships and creating a buzz. Had a huge launch party that December. Over 200 people attended. The mayor even came. We had so many media outlets that shared the story. So it was a really great launch. And so now I'm rebranding the business to add other accessories. But I've just been enjoying that I guess process and being able to share that with other people and to also inspire them to start their business and to know that it's possible. 2 days ago, I was sharing my story with middle school students, and I asked them if you have a business or have a business idea, and some were saying, "Oh, well, I crochet and I trade cards, but I don't make any money." I had to tell them, "Hey, there's Etsy and there's other outlets and opportunities out there for you to vend your business." And I think sometimes people are first generation businesses and they've never had that family or outside influence to tell them that, yes, you may be 11 years old, but this is a viable product and it's certainly possible for you to take that and to start small. And by the time you're 18, you're everywhere and you're a household name. And I've seen it done. So just some of what we've been up to, I guess you can say, over the last couple decades when it comes to business. And I feel like eyes haven't seen or ears have heard, all the things that God has in store for all of us. And certainly with, I'm hoping with Upscale Socks, Underwood Photography.
Oh, thank you for that. And amen, Lenny. And I just want to say, we appreciate you for encouraging our youth to start their own businesses and become entrepreneurs and start young. They don't have to wait, start young.
Right.
What
And
are
it
you
doesn't always
most,
take money.
that's right, exactly. Talent, right? Creativity, the drive, right? The determination, um, and, doing what you love to do,
Yes.
right? And bring that to the marketplace. Yes.
Hmm.
What are you most productive in your business?
I would say, you said what or when?
Let's do both. What and when. So yes,
Okay.
let's do both. Yeah, I'd like that. Yes,
Okay.
please.
Well, I'll start with the win. Win would be, I'm not an early riser, if I'm being completely honest with you. I get so many ideas and inspiration late at night. So it may be at midnight or at 11 a.m., 11 p.m. in the shower. So many thoughts come through my mind for ideas, especially when it comes to design for Upscale Socks or partnerships or collaborations. Um, Connections is, so I would say my best work may come at that time, those hours. And I take a break usually late morning or mid afternoon to work out for a couple hours. So yesterday it was a beautiful day. I went running. I did 5 miles my first time this season. um, Even though it's just February, it's been awesome to see that. I'm a little concerned about global warming, but it's only so much I can do about that, but being able to go out there and clear my mind and reset, if you will, and get some inspiration just by the beauty of our outdoors and the people that I see and even the graffiti that I see. I get inspiration. It may be, not what we want in our city landscape, but there's art that's art, and it's beneficial to some of us, and I can see that as wearable art for what I do. So that is the win. And then the what I would say would be, I had a great meeting yesterday with some people on an initiative that we're working on, and hopefully we'll be sharing more about it to benefit businesses, especially first generation businesses or those that are in the Black and Brown community, and trying to bridge that gap when it comes to funding woes and barriers that they're faced with, and lacking confidence or whatever the cases are. But that would be another, that would be a what. I would also say, going back to my time at the church would be another what.
Nice. Thank you. Lenny, we've been talking about God a lot, in the timing. God's timing is always perfect, right? We we may not think so. We may say, Lord, where are you? But we have to realize, in our life, when it comes to our personal life, in our professional life, that God's timing is always perfect, and to embrace that. So, daily, how does God play a role in your business?
Yeah, so just as I shared, it's so much. I know he gives me direction and vision for I'm taking things, or where he's taking the business, and some things I get anxious about, but the word says be anxious for nothing. Um, Collaborations that were supposed to happen a few years ago and they have not materialized yet, but I keep telling myself be anxious for nothing, because once again it may happen that it may be the seed may be in the ground in 2024, but it may not materialize or come to fruition until 2030. And I have to be patient and know that the race is not given to a swift nor a strong, but to the one who endures. So if I'm staying the course and knowing that, as they may say, Rome is not built in a day. And if I'm in this for the long run, I have to be patient and know that it's going to be worth it in 6 years if it does end up being in 2030. And even some things that I see happening now, I just recently was able to build a solid relationship with the Springfield museums, and that was something that I was told no to know about 5 years ago. And with new people on board and new relationships established, it was so easy. This time it was amazing. And so if I had said, oh, forget them and don't want to do business and spoke ill of them or something like that, then God would have said, man, you just blew it. You don't know what I was setting up for you in 5 years. But I was patient and humble about it. I wasn't hounding them every time I would see someone at an event. And even with photography, same thing with my relationship with them in particular. It was in recent months. And so God is the head, and I have to follow his lead and not get ahead of him and try to railroad someone out of the on the out of the path and let me try to get ahead of them. And my time will come. And 20 years ago when I started photography, I just enjoyed the art of photography. I wasn't even really thinking about business. I just appreciated the opportunities that were happening organically. And all of that happened without any social media. I never even created a social media page because I knew I enjoyed the business to business or interaction one to one, and finding people on my own without the reach on social media, even though there's obviously benefit to that. But yeah, that's God's timing and faithfulness has been undeniable.
First of all, I want to say congratulations to your collaboration with the Springfield Museums. That's wonderful. The other thing is, thank you for reminding us how important that God's timing is, and to be patient, right? And do not cut, disconnect, or cut yourself off from something God has not called you to, right? To, as long as we're patient, we trust in God, and we're kind and we're good and we're respectful, that and we're not burning bridges, that God can keep an open door for us, right? To build in that way. So please, viewers, understand what Lenny has just said and the importance of it, especially when it comes to business, but personally as well. Don't burn bridges unless God says, okay, cut off from someone. If He says it, that's different. But take a cue from Lenny, follow his example, because these are the things that can happen. These are the blessings that can flow from God when we operate it according to his standard of our life, right? Like this is how God tells us to operate. Right? And to glorify him and to image him and reflect him. And that means operating in kindness. That means um, being patient. That means being willing to accept those things that are not for right now, but maybe could be. So,
Yes, like they say, God's timing is always perfect.
yes, it certainly is. It certainly is. So, Lenny, let's talk about now boundaries, right? So, what has boundaries or what have boundaries meant in your life?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to my whole, regimen of working out, and I'm working. I would say I'm working on my boundaries when it comes to around work, because I'll respond to an email if I get it at 1 a.m. I'll respond to an email. I guess it's fine to respond at 7 a.m., but really anytime. So I was at a Black History Month event last week, and a graphic designer was saying he has strict hours, 9 to 5, not available on the weekends. I appreciate that. I'm sure there's times where he has to deviate from those boundaries, but I edit anytime, I'll send photos anytime. So I'm working on that. But I would say when it comes to my prayer time, yes, there's boundaries for that, where, usually first thing in the morning and in the evening, my phone's away and not accessible, TV's off. Same thing with my church time when I'm, in service. Saturday, I had an event. I got home from Boston maybe around 3 a.m. I had to go in the morning. That next morning, I knew I had some obligations, and um, it was important that I showed up, even though I was, working. And obviously, you have to self-care. I'm not saying there's times where you can't deviate from your schedule, but I knew what my Sunday would look like. I would be able to come home, take a nap, head to the gym after, and then I had another event in the evening time. So another boundary would be, I would say, my time in the gym. It's really a way for me to focus on what I'm there for. So my phone's in my locker for that 2.5 hour duration. I'm in the sauna. I'm able to, really center myself and, meditate. And it's really peaceful. And as I mentioned earlier, clear my mind. So it's key to anything that you do, be it a business owner or just or not just, but as a full-time employee.
It, I agree with you. Boundaries. I'm learning that myself, Lenny. And so when we had our conversation prior to this interview, and you talked about the importance of boundaries for, especially for a business owner, um, it just rang true for me. God was speaking to me through you about the yeses and the nos. And for me, um, operating in boundaries has allowed me to be more in the flow of God versus the checklist, right? Like checking off what's on the, don't get me wrong, the checklist is important. But when you don't leave room for the other things, when you, especially God, to operate through God and with God, then what happens is you miss out. You miss out sometimes of what, the blessings that God has for you. And that's what we're going to talk about right now, God's blessings. How do you manage the blessings and overflow of God?
Yeah, and part of that would be back to the boundaries. So I would say no may mean not right now. So with the blessings comes may also come boundaries, because you say, I'm overflowing with opportunities, with speaking engagements, and with collaborations. And it may be a not right now situation where I got to focus on the projects at hand. Maybe in a year or 6 months, we can revisit that. So it can be challenging, to be honest. A lot of what I've experienced over the last few years of bountiful blessings have been unplanned and more than I could have room enough to receive, to be honest. So, and I feel like, wow, God, why, how did I qualify for these blessings? So I'll share with you, in from maybe September to December, it was quite a marathon. I know it's nobody but God that has kept me, and always keep us. But from being at the Big E, for Upscale Socks, to pretty much daily fulfilling orders for the holiday season, to holiday parties for Underwood Photography, to family photos, to my stepfather passed away in November. Holidays obviously that we have to focus on and be a part of. Speaking engagements, and annual dinners, and retirement parties, and birthday parties, and you name it. And not complaining, I'm not trying to sound like that, but managing it can be quite a bit. And I'm pretty much operating as a solopreneur. Obviously, I have people that do certain things with me and for me, but I'm the eyes and the face to the business to the businesses. So I take January off these days. For the last 2 years, I've taken January off to back to the checklist, check things off that are already existing, not accepting anything unless it's for the future, but really dialing back. And it's been blissful, to the point where I was hoping for it to continue on in February, but there's been a myriad of requests for the Black History Month calendar with schools and institutions, and I'm grateful for it all. And I feel much more refreshed, but it's critical that we manage our life and do it well. We want to do a great job with excellence and to glorify God, and also for the long road ahead. If we're going to sustain ourselves, our business, and stay in our right mind, I think it's important to take a break. I'll just share with you this one thing. I was talking to another small business locally who won a trip. I asked her, when are you going on this trip that you won? She says, I don't even know if I can go on this trip. So I had to encourage her, if you don't go on a free trip, when are you going to go on a trip that you pay for with your family? So your business will be fine, but have those things in place. Maybe you're closed for X amount of days. And obviously I don't know the dynamics of our business, but I think it's just important that we take a break and self-care and enjoy the fruits of your labor too.
Yes, I agree with you 100% about that, Lenny. That somewhat happened to me in December. Like everything starts shutting down for me. My emotionally, mentally, um, not so much physically, but my body was telling me, okay, it's time to take a break. We need a break. And when I say we, I think about the Holy Spirit, but like operating in this temple, we need a break. Like you cannot continue to go at this pace, because I was, working hard from January to November. Don't get me wrong, loved it, following the instructions of the Lord. But there comes a time when we do need that break. When we need to, like you said, self-care, love on ourselves, and give ourselves that time to recoup. So I agree with you 100%. And thank you for sharing that. And thank you for telling that to that entrepreneur that probably needed to hear it, or needed that, that confirmation or that, to say, okay, it is okay to take this break. It really is. And so,
Yeah.
and go ahead, please.
No, I was just gonna say, so you might know this, I was on Wheel of Fortune, so I won a trip. And I went to Panama, and once again, I'm looking at the weeks that we had available and all the options for locations. And oh, I'm not available that week. I already have that on the calendar. Oh man. So if we're not planning ahead, because the calendar will fill up, like I was online yesterday, a fellow photographer, he's booked until July, which is a blessing. But if we're not planning ahead to earmark that vacation time, then our schedule will just be filled with things. So I have a wedding in Nebraska in April. I had, I think, to turn down 4 opportunities because of this prime time weekend, I guess, in April. And I guess if I think about it, that's common. But if I didn't have that already on the schedule, it'll just be putting in those dates, right? And I would be just like another week. But thankfully that was preset last fall. But it's being intentional sometimes about dialing back. And I tend to do that during the week versus the weekend because it tends to be a little slower at times, but everyone's different.
Tell me something. And how do you fit in your philanthropic endeavors? How do you fit that in? Because you are a busy man. You are a busy man. So how do you fit that all in? And tell us more about them, please.
Yeah, it's hard to fit. And sometimes I sit on 3 community boards, and there's several meetings and committee meetings that happen. But I see the purpose behind it and the impact that it's doing. And one in particular with Common Capital, sharing funding for those that are in business, and being able to bridge that gap for the Black and Brown community in particular, those that may not be aware of the funding that's available, up to $300,000, and that is right there for those in the Western Mass community. A lot of it happens organically. When God gave me the idea for Upscale Socks, I just knew that I wanted to be more about profit. I wanted to have an arm that would benefit children and those that are in need. So usually during the holiday season, we'll do, for every purchase you make, we'll donate a pair of socks. And we've done that for about 5 years to several community organizations. We have a scholarship for some local rising college freshmen as well. Last year, we gave out 7 scholarships to Springfield Central High School graduates, adding another high school this year. And so God provides, I would say. He gives provision. There's people that donate money, and I don't even know them, but they're, people that follow us on social media, and they'll send us $500 and trust that we'll donate that money to a college student. So yes, God has given the vision, but it's so much more than that, how, it's impacting those that will hopefully, that are maybe marginalized or without and need seed money, and how happy they are and how much pride I get out of seeing them be blessed. And I live vicariously through the recipients of the socks and the children and those in the shelters or at a facility to receive a suit and all the accessories to go along with it.
That is amazing, Lenny. I wanted to ask you, how did you know that you wanted to incorporate that part, that philanthropic piece to Upscale Socks? And before you answer that, I just wanted to say condolences to your family regarding your stepfather. Yes.
Thank you
And
very
so
much.
you're
Thank
welcome.
you,
Absolutely.
Carrie.
Yes.
So I just knew, when God gave me the idea and vision for Upscale Socks, I wanted to be there for the community beyond just providing socks that are cool and are stylish and comfortable and soft and have a scripture or a cool design or whatever. I just knew that there's children that can benefit. So I have one in particular that says dream bigger, that I like giving to children, because often, as I shared earlier, you may have this gift of crocheting, but you just want to just do it as a hobby, and oh, nobody's buying it locally, so I'm just going to stop there. But you can dream bigger than that, right? You can take it
Yes.
further. So, yeah, on Monday, I was teaching business at a local middle and high school, and it was our last week. We had a 10-week program and gifting them with some items. So I just love it. It makes it even more meaningful. They didn't know they were going to receive anything at the end, but there are some students that are locked in the whole time. They were focused. They weren't sleeping during the class time. And so you never know who's watching, who's paying attention, what notes are being taken, even though you're not being graded in particular for that, but I'm taking mental note of our time together. But hopefully, once again, seeds are being planted so that later on in life, they're going to say, you know what? I remember you, Mr. Lenny or Mr. Underwood. You came to my 7th grade class for that season. And, I learned these skills. And I remember the examples you showed, or whatever they may say. I hope, because I remember 30 years ago when I was, well, maybe not that long ago, but 20 something years ago when I was in middle school and sharing from junior achievement, the guest speakers. So the impact, once again, hopefully is there. But yeah, not just the classroom time, but the scholarship provision that God gives, because having the vision for it, I didn't really know where the money was coming from. I just knew what God was leading me to do, and I knew He would give everything else that goes along with it.
Ugh, we serve a great God, don't we? We serve a great
Yes.
God. Praise God. So, Lenny, what are your next steps?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, this is year 20 with Underwood Photography. I'm considering sunsetting by 25 years, and doing other things with the realm of photography. I teach photography. Last week, I was teaching at a senior center in Chicopee. So I do that. I do one-on-one mentoring. I have people shadow me. So not quite sure, because I see Upscale Socks taking over more of my time, and other forms of consulting, and some other initiatives that are on the way with the consulting component and business university teaching and things like that. So not quite sure what all of that will look like in the next maybe year or two. But with Upscale Socks, I'm currently rebranding the business to make it wider with other accessories. So more than likely adding underwear to the offerings, and then possibly limited edition hats and maybe some other items. So you can be on the lookout for that in the next maybe quarter or two of this year.
Nice. That's wonderful. Lenny, where can people reach you? How can they contact you? And um, what else would you like to add to our conversation that we haven't discussed, in that maybe some additional insights that you would like to share, or not?
Yeah, so I would just say, for any, I was going to say photographer, yes, photographer, but any business owner, be consistent. One thing I find with entrepreneurs that I'm helping is the inconsistencies. And it could be because you have a full-time family or career that may be distracting you. You're not able to focus, and you may get frustrated. You say, "Oh, forget it." And through some research and unfortunate statistics, when it comes to Black-owned businesses, the survival rate, 80% don't last past 18 months.
Mm,
So the focus has been to try to change that disparity. And how can we help them? Creating access in some way, access to something, right?
yes.
So my goal, with this conversation that we're having, as I said, is to help you to be consistent, to encourage you to be consistent. And if you have those challenges, I'm here as a resource in the community. If you live in Western Mass, or if you don't, we can certainly hop online somehow and communicate. And I'm happy to help you in some way. And to answer your question as to how they can reach me, if you look my name up on LinkedIn, Facebook, Leonard Underwood, you can find me there. Upscale Socks is on X or Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and happy to share with you some of the love that we're spreading with when it comes to socks and messages as well on entrepreneurship. You can find on our feeds.
Thank you so much, Lenny. We will put your information in the description so that their contact information, so people can reach out to you after they've watched this video. Thank you for being here, Lenny. Thank you for sharing your insights, your wisdom, your journey, your faith journey, your relationship with God, your entrepreneurial and philanthropic endeavors. Um, I'm grateful. I know everyone else who's watching this, they're grateful as well, because you have so much to share, so much to offer, and you're a blessing. So thank you.
No, thank you again for having me. I'm humbled, and hopefully I didn't bore the audience and disappoint.
Not at all. Far from it. I could really probably go on and talk to you for probably another hour, Lenny, but we will let you go, because we're grateful that you took this time out. We know you're a busy man, and so having you here is a joy and a pleasure, and definitely not boring. So thank you, Lenny. God bless you.
Yes, God bless you.
Everything you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.